Hi, Dave. So I was that caller on the Penguin video, the one you simply dismissed with, "That's anti-Semitic reasoning." I've had some time to think about what I actually wanted to say, so I'm going to say it properly here. I'm going to break this down into 3 points, and I think they're worth actual engagement, not another non-answer. So here's the claim in full, and I want to be precise about it. Prejudice does not require naming the target group. This isn't some new academic framing. It's just how coded language has always worked historically. Nobody ran 20th century campaigns on, "We hate black people." They ran on law and order, welfare queens, urban crime. Everybody understood what was being said. The absence of the explicit word didn't make the rhetoric neutral. It simply made it effective because it let people participate without ever saying the quiet part out loud. And the worst case, that's exactly the function it served. It gave people permission to indulge their more capricious, uglier instincts while feeling entirely guilt-free about it. Nobody has to admit to themselves that they're really doing it. The label never gets spoken. And anti-Semitism has been the exact same thing throughout history. Things like cosmopolitan elites, international bankers. These were doing anti-Semitic work for over a century before anyone needed to say the word Jew out loud. The mechanism was never a slur. It was the structure, a small, disloyal group secretly pulling strings behind media, finance, and government for its own benefit. And that structure works on an audience whether or not the speaker ever uses the ethnic label, and whether or not the speaker personally, consciously believes anything hateful. And this isn't a special standard I'm inventing for this topic. It is the same standard we use everywhere else. It's how we know Donald Trump holds animus towards Mexicans. He didn't need to say a slur. He talked about it. Rapists, criminals, they're not sending their best. Nobody serious argues that because he avoided the explicit ethnic label, the rhetoric gets a pass. We look at the structure and the content underneath the words, not just whether or not a group's name gets said out loud. That's the standard. I'm just asking you to apply it consistently to yourself as well. So when you say, "I said Zionist, not Jewish, get a grip," that phrase by itself has never been a sufficient defense for any coded rhetoric in history, in any context ever. And you have to look at the structure and the content underneath it. Now, I'm not just going to just assert this and expect you to trust me. There is a detailed, independently produced forensic breakdown of your transcript. Travis did it on his video, and it's timestamped line by line, checked against 3 different anti-Semitism frameworks. I'll link it down below, and here's what it found in your own words. Larry Ellis, a Zionist billionaire who purchased TikTok to suppress Palestinian content. The ownership claim is factually false. TikTok is a US multi-investor joint venture. Ellison didn't personally buy it, but separate from the factual error, the shape of the claim, right? You have a Zionist individual secretly seizing a platform to control what young people are allowed to see. This is textbook hidden media control rhetoric. When you say things like Paramount, Warner, CBS, CNN, HBO are all under one entity owned by Larry Ellison, and your words saying Zionists control the vast majority of mainstream media outlets is not a conspiracy theory, is a statement of fact, ultra factually false as stated, and flagged independently by this report as a classic hidden control structure. You argue Ashkenazi Jews aren't really Semites and are largely European, and that Israel restricts ancestry testing specifically to hide that fact from its own citizen. Really, this is just genetic delegitimization, and it's also just scientifically wrong. The actual population genetics shows substantial Levantine ancestry in Ashkenazi populations, not a purely European one. Members of Congress supporting a defense bill you say are guilty of treason as a part of a hostile takeover. Divided loyalty language is also a very old anti-Semitic trope. Now, none of that required you to say, "I hate Jews." That's the entire point I was making at the call, and you skipped past it. You can be completely sincere that you're only criticizing a state or an ideology and still be running arguments that are structurally identical to much older ones. Hidden control of the media, hidden control of the government, collective guilt. and even the racial legitimacy of a people to exist where they live. The trope doesn't check your intentions before it lands on the audience. I want to be really clear about one thing, because I know how this gets twisted both directions. This is not me saying the humanitarian catastrophe in your video isn't real. It is. The same document that flags the rhetorical problems that Travis made also affirms the extensive, well-documented suffering, displacement, and killing of innocent Palestinian people and children. That suffering is real, and it's not in dispute here. But you don't get to use the suffering of innocent Palestinian people as a way to wave off legitimate and coherent scrutiny of your rhetoric. That's exactly what you did. The response to a structural critique was to invoke the moral weight of the atrocity itself, as if raising the question was somehow a betrayal of the victims. It isn't. The two claims are separate. One does not cancel the other one out. So that's it. 3 points. Coded prejudice, doesn't need a slur. Your video runs that structure repeatedly and demonstrably. And the real suffering in Gaza doesn't get to be used as a shield against fair scrutiny. And I just like an actual answer to this. Not a not answer. An actual answer where you deal with the content of what I said, not just your weird way of just dismissing it.